Good evening, everyone. It is me, Miss Morgan, your reigning Miss Gay Pennsylvania America 2023. Welcome to my home this evening. We are in our third episode of Let's Get Down to Excellence, and I love it so much because we love bringing everyone in on our secret, which is excellence at the Miss Gay America system. I'm so excited for tonight. We're starting to get on stage and we're going to start showing everybody what the nitty gritties are for the scoring systems on stage categories. Tonight's category is going to be gown. But before we get into that, I just want to give you some fun updates that are happening with the Miss Gay Pennsylvania America system right now. So we just recently had our first prelim, one of seven in Miss Gay New Hope. It's Miss Gay New Hope America, but it was in New Hope, Pennsylvania. And we have our winner as well as our first alternate. We have Katrina Escalarza, who is our winner, and our first alternate, which is Jayla Rosemore. We have two great contestants going in for our Miss Gay Pennsylvania America pageant, which is going to be happening in November 16th to be specific. So make sure you put it on your calendar. Also, right now, we have two prelims coming up, so you make sure you check those out. We have our Central prelim, which is on May 18th, as we also have our Philadelphia prelim, which is happening on June 29th. All right, I know we have a lot going on in Pennsylvania, but I'm so excited for our pageant system this year. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit that share button, because the more people we bring in, the more people we can show how fabulous the Miss Gay America system really is and the passion that we have for it. So thank you so much. And to those that are joining and returning, thank you again. So tonight we are talking about gown. This is some people's favorite. This is some people's scary zone. So for me, I'm a little bit of a mix, but I have the best of the best to go through everything for us tonight and give us the nitty gritties and the details that we've all been dying to know about. Tonight we have Katia Lee Love. This is our former Miss Gay America 2000, and she is absolutely fabulous and fierce. And I can't wait to get into that brain of hers because she knows it all. And what do they say? She's got it all. She sure does. So if everyone can put their hands virtually together and put your hands and love out there for the fabulous, the gorgeous Miss Katia Lee Love. Hello there, gorgeous.
Hey, how are you doing?
I am fantastic. How are you on the other side of the world?
I know it's the middle of the afternoon for me here.
I know. I'm finished my 12-hour shift at the hospital. I've fed the cat, and I'm here hanging out with your gorgeousness. And I'm
Well,
so
I'm not even gonna touch the comment fed your cat. So
I knew I picked the right person to talk about gown. So elegant. And I actually even saw the fabulous, elegant, like scenery for you because I just felt like you were class and you needed to have.
oh yes, exactly. Me and my little tank top here because it's already 90 degrees. So
I was gonna say, isn't it hot where you're at?
yeah, it's pretty warm right now. It's not hot as it will be, but it is pretty warm for springtime.
Yeah.
A little miserable.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for joining us tonight. It is an absolute, and I'm going to probably say it a trillion billion times, but it's an absolute pleasure and an honor to have you a part of this experience because, you know, all the formers have a wealth of knowledge, and it's just amazing that we can get you involved in this.
So, well, I really appreciate being asked. I mean, the only time I'm ever usually asked for my opinions or information on things is if I'm giving a statement to the police. So.
Well, tonight's not that night. So secret's safe in here. No one's going to tell anybody anything. Oh, wait, by the way, did I tell everyone to share and make sure everybody watches tonight? So, and I have to say, I'm kind of like in awe because I got to watch, I did my assignment. I was looking at a bunch of different videos last night of different former contestants competing. And I got to the 2012 where you were I think it was the 2012, you were hosting one. And I was like, you better, because you did it. And I didn't realize
I haven't gotten banned.
Well, I'll tell you, you were very entertaining. So for those future contestants that are out there that want to watch the YouTube videos, check out the YouTube videos and more. So I think it was 2012 gown, but you and another former were hilarious, which I think we're going to play a little bit of it. You're going to remember the other host in the other video that we played in just a short bit.
All right. All right.
All right, so you ready to get down to excellence with me? And
I suppose so. I'm going to let you kind of lead us along the path, and I will just kind of chirp as I need to chirp.
I love that for me. So I think the first part is that from my notes is that we are always nervous getting into who do we pick to design our gowns, because it's kind of like, all right, what kind of gown do I get and who do I pick? And I know that's like that first stepping stone into making a decision on how the rest is going to flourish. So can you
Right.
share a little bit about what you've learned or seen?
Well, I think there's a process to that, because I think before you even decide who exactly is going to execute your gown, you need to have a pretty strong idea as to what it is you want. Um, because you need to choose a designer who has an aesthetic that is going to mirror what it is you are after or wanting to accomplish. Every designer has their own kind of look that they go with quite often. And not every designer can execute the same vision that you have in your head. So you kind of need to look at some of their past work, some of their gallery of work. You want to talk to some people that have worked with them, because not only is it the image that they're trying to get in sync with, but it's also you as an individual as well. You want to have a good working relationship with someone, so you're going to want somebody that has a personality that you can kind of jive with and gel with. And then I think also one very important thing is you need to ask people that have worked with them if they are reliable on their timelines. That is something that is very important. And you do also have to realize that not every designer is necessarily trying to be negligent and not making their timeline. Sometimes they just try to help too many people at one time.
Sure.
So you need to have somebody that that is going to be able to meet what you want to do. Also, someone who's going to be able to work within the budget that you have. So you not only have to have an idea of what you're after, but also an idea of how much you can comfortably, and that is a very strong emphasis on that word, how much you can comfortably spend without having your lights turned off.
Sure.
So from there, I think word of mouth is probably the best. I think you also need to have a very clear idea in your mind that you don't necessarily have to go with some of the most popular designers. Just because someone is not the one that 50 people use for a pageant does not mean that that person is not going to be able to execute what you need done.
Sure.
So that's something that you want to also look at. And again, that kind of falls back onto knowing what aesthetic you want to work with, and if that is something that they are accomplished at.
100%. So I know that what we're doing right now for Pennsylvania for future contestants, or anybody in the United States, if not, or if they want to, we're going to be listing different suggested gown designers and people that are open to either already a part of the system or looking to get into our system and help create some amazing pieces for the contestants. So that's something that's going to be on our MissGayPennsylvaniaAmerica.com website.
And that is something that's very unique. I've not seen any of the systems actually put together any type of directory. I mean, obviously, you have people that recommend various people to execute parts of the packages for them, but I don't think I've ever seen a preliminary system actually put together a directory before.
And you know what? I think it's just the wonderful thing about it is that coming in as we'll just say a brand new, fresh novice contestant, it can be very overwhelming, especially when you have that, what is it, 50 some page handbook?
Oh yeah, it's and that's not even as much as it used to be. It's pared down quite a bit, and probably will. The wonderful thing about our handbook is it's kind of like what I call a living handbook, in that it is constantly changing and it is constantly adapting. Things are added, things are taken away, things are reworded, just because it needs to have the ability to grow and change. And so when us back in my day, um,
2012 YouTube video. 2012 YouTube video of you posting.
Well, when you get back to the 2000s, that's when it's really funny. 7 hairlines and 12 waistlines ago.
Oh, I did a little bit of digging last night, but we can.
Well, we won't talk. Hopefully, you just stayed on YouTube.
Just YouTube. Period. I had work the next day or today.
There you go. Yeah, that's something that is wonderful, and I think that's something that should be commended to all of y'all that have worked on that.
Yeah, it's a great team. Through the promoters and everyone by my side, it's just been absolutely fantastic. So I don't know. I kind of don't know if you touched upon it, but the next step. So say you found that amazing designer, right? You're like, perfect, they're in my budget. Excellent. So how do you suggest maybe a brand new contestant to come up with an idea for the gown itself? Like, so when you walk into your first meet cue with your designer, they're going to be like, so what do you want? You know what I mean? So it's a little bit overwhelming, and you're like, I just want to look pretty, but is there anything that you could suggest as like maybe a trigger for someone to be like, okay, this gets me on a different path of like, okay, this is more me?
Absolutely. The first thing I think you need to do is you actually need to kind of back up and start during your shows or prior to even picking out the things you want for a gown, because you want to be trying on different cuts and silhouettes of outfits for what you're doing, because not everybody is the same.
Mhm.
Everybody's shaped differently, everybody has their highlights and their problem spots. And you need to be able to look very I won't say harshly at yourself, but realistically at yourself. You need to look realistically at yourself and ask opinions of others. Does this neckline look better on me? Do you think I look better in sleeves? What do you think is a spot that you would think I want to, kind of camouflage? Things like that. And then what you need to do, as far as my process that I suggest to my clients, is go online and start pulling pictures of gowns you like. And it may be the color, it may be the skirt, the sleeve, the beadwork pattern, whatever it is. And you kind of compile this collage of ideas. And then
Mhm.
when you're talking to your designer, you hand them these pictures and you say, this is the aspect that I like of this. This is what I like. This is the feel of what I want to look like. These are my problem areas that I want to, cover up. I have to wear a corset. I have to wear certain undergarments, so that a designer can have a little bit, not even so much a direction of where you want to go, but directions of where not to go a
Sure.
lot of times. Because what happens is people will go online and they'll pick a gown. They love a gown and it's on a size zero mannequin and it looks fabulous because anything on a size zero mannequin looks fabulous. But then you put it onto our bodies and we are anything but a size zero, or we have extra wide shoulders, or we have, incredibly muscular chests, or whatever it may be. And it's not going to look the way you think.
Sure. Um, so what I really loved, I mean, I loved everything you said, of course, and I wrote everything down. But I really liked how you mentioned about talking to the designer about the things that you feel are need to be covered up, or like the things that like, because those are the things that I feel judges will see,
Hmm.
right? I mean, because they're looking for, because especially if you have an exquisite gown, they're going to now look for the details.
Right.
You're not covering up those things that maybe are the things that are not falling in line with the subcategories, which we're going to get to in a minute.
Exactly. And,
It's
to some level, everybody has a bit of dysmorphia with their body, whether it's that you think you are much better than you are, or you think you are much worse than you are. So that's why it's very important to have either pictures of yourself in outfits, or someone who is not just going to be a yes man to you and tell you the things that actually do need to be worked on. And sometimes I don't like the word particularly cover up, and I know I've used it before. It's more camouflage than cover up. You don't necessarily hide things just by covering them up. There are ways that a good designer can look at situations that you feel are problematic and maybe get you somewhere between completely covered and completely exposed that you can feel comfortable with, that you never had any sort of idea. But you are definitely right. It's something that really you need to address, because then if you give a designer just free range, they're going to sit there and they're going to come up with, 3 or 4 sketches,
right,
absolutely beautiful sketches, but they're not right for you. And then you say, well, I don't like this, I don't like that. And then it's just been a waste of time
right. And time is of always the essence, especially
for
with getting
everybody.
down. Yeah.
For everybody.
So since we're kind of teetering around, let's. Do you mind if we get into some of the subcategories? Because I know the first one is literally suitability of the gown,
Hmm.
and so so each subcategory. I believe there's four.
I believe
Yeah,
there is. Yeah.
four, and I think it's out of a total of 150 points
Hmm.
altogether subcategories. So the first one is suitability, which is out of 30 points, and like I said, it's about the points,
Hmm.
and every point counts, and you don't want to give any reason for a point to be deducted. And this is why I love what we're doing, is because then people can listen and hear the things that we're looking for, or you're looking
Hmm.
for, or a judge is looking for. So I loved how when it talked about the gowns in the handbook, about how it says make sure this is your time to showcase yourself, but also conceal some of the things that won't be
Hmm.
outlandish. I do like how We already covered about complementing your figure, so we don't really necessarily need to talk about that and covering things up. But I'd love for you to talk a little bit about maybe padding and maybe the breasts and things like that, because I know that the silhouette and having that feminine look is a very important piece to the gown category. If
Correct. And before we even do that, because you've mentioned the handbook, and especially if we're gearing towards people who are newer to the system, it is important for you to know that you can find all of this information at MissGayAmerica.com. There is the entire handbook is listed right there, and it's something that no matter what system you do, you really need to read before you do anything. Just read what it is people are looking for, and use it as not so much a Bible per se, but as much more as a guideline and the ability to check off not what to do, but what not to do. And so, you know, you have kind of this wide range, but you can find it there. It's not some like secret hidden thing. So everybody do look to MissGayAmerica.com or to your national or state title holders. Everybody should have access to that. So that aside, then going on, you had asked about padding.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, padding is something that is a debated topic right now in the art form of female impersonation in drag performance. Again, you have to revert to the realization that not everybody is shaped the same. So the same level of padding is not going to be necessarily required by each and every person. Some people are very straight figured with very little curvature to them. And so they need to create width at the top and width at the hip area in order to create a silhouette that creates curve to get shape. Some people do so as well with the breastplates or larger bust. And especially as you get to be larger in dress sizes, clothing sizes, or if you're you know, very muscular in some point, perhaps very broad shouldered, you have to counteract and play with your proportions because it creates a situation where you can perhaps even avoid an area looking more problematic because you've created a different proportion in another.
Sure.
But do not feel that you have to be overly padded, but you do have to have a shape of some kind.
Sure.
Okay. And a lot of that will also dictate what the designer will design for you. Because, for example, something that you would design for someone that was incredibly busty is going to be very different than someone you design for who is a little more flat through the chest.
Right.
So you do have to let your designer know about that. I do think that you also need to be aware that almost everybody needs some sort of foundation garment to them, whether it's a bra or it's you know, a tiny waist cincher. Doesn't necessarily mean need a whole full corset, or sometimes even just a 3-inch piece of elastic at the top of your pantyhose to keep your soft spots there in that little lower back area from denting in. There's always something that needs to be done to create a smoothness in there, and that's part of the padding process and part of the undergarments. And those are all things that you need to let a designer know, because that's going to play with the proportions of what you're doing.
And something a little, because I've, of course, I'm searching out some nice pieces for myself. And something that I did learn is I have my full body in my bag ready to go. And I will, after we have a discussion, I will put that body on. We'll do the correct measurements. There's mock-ups and there's everything that goes. So then when I do get my piece, it is like a glove.
Yes, and that's something that is very important whenever you're doing any of your measurements. That is the foundation. Just like with a building, it's like building a building. If the measurements and the numbers that the architect has done for the foundation are wrong, it just crumbles. And the same will be for a dress. So anytime you do measurements, fittings, anything like that, you need to have whatever it is you plan to have on at the time you're wearing the garment. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the exact one, but it needs to be something very similar or comparable anyway.
Sure. So what are your thoughts about contouring your breasts? So I know that it has to look it has to look realistic, right? It can't be a hard line. Is it encouraged to have a contour of the chest, or does it weigh in at all?
Yeah, I think you have to be aware of your body. Some of us, like myself, I was very blessed with having very, whenever I had my chest or I would work out, my chest developed forward rather than wide. And I always had very mobile skin in my chest area so that I could just lift myself up into a dress and it would create a cleavage. And then the amount of shadowing that I would have to do would be very little.
Sure.
If you don't have that and you're actually trying to create that, that is something that you do need to play with. I do think it is encouraged that you do it. I do not find it helpful to do it either too dark to where it's very distinctly almost like you took a Sharpie and drew it. And I also think the one thing that a lot of people do that is, it's a pet peeve of mine actually, is when they do contour that, they do it in a semicircle and they create this arc at the top. A woman's breast does not necessarily curve like that. It only does like a slight curvature as everything's coming up and forward. And I think that's one of the things that bothers me with that. But I do suggest that people do that because it just creates a shadow. Now, the intensity of how hard you do it is going to be relative to the proximity of your people that are viewing you and your judges. Clearly, if you're on a large national stage like at Miss America, you're quite far back, you're under very harsh lights. Everything you do makeup wise is going to be a little harsher and a little more etched than you would be doing if you were, only 6 feet away from a judge. And so, that is kind of a relative thing. And you also have to bear in mind, whether this is for gown or any category for that matter, judging is an impression and it's an opinion. You are not going to have the exact same opinion from every single person. And so what bothers one judge may not bother another, and you'll get kind of different things. So you kind of have to find a mold or a medium ground there.
Sure.
So for me, I can speak to what I like. No one person is the definitive be all end all of every answer because not every person is.
100%.
And experimentation is the key.
100%. So a more definitive, maybe the hem length of a gown is kind of the next part of the suitability. So is there a strict line now?
Even that, definitives, it's kind of like science. Science is definitive until it's not. And hemlines, before, when I first started doing female impersonation and doing pageants, the main guideline was that the hem had to go below the seam of the heel, where the heel joined the shoe. And it could be slightly up off of the ground, but that was back when we were purchasing all of our gowns from stores. And so, we weren't able to get the extra length for our height. So now, the gowns touching the floor but not puddling tends to be the main way you want to go, unless for some reason, like let's say you have a tuliped edge to the hemline of your gown, like a leg slit that curves down and then goes into the thing, then clearly you're not going to have straight to the floor in that area. For sure, ball gowns should touch the floor without puddling. The main thing is you don't want your hemline to be so short that it becomes a distraction and or too long that it becomes a hazard for when you're walking.
Sure. Which is
you can manipulate that in a couple of ways. You can do that either through hemming, which is usually the easier way to do it, or you can adjust your heel height if there's an issue with that, either up or down, depending upon how much you're trying to accommodate. You don't necessarily want to come out in flats, and you don't necessarily want to come out in Herman Munster 8-inch platforms either.
Sure.
So there's many ways that you can go about that, and that's part of having fittings with your gowns, and understanding that even when you get your final gown from a designer, there's still often little tweaks that need to happen.
I do like your trick that you're saying, and the tip about changing the height of your shoe, though, because that can be definitely a save-all. Especially.
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. When I was competing, I actually used to get, well, for two reasons, really. I used to get 2 different heel heights. One, which was my normal heel height, which I tried to get about a 4-inch heel if I could. But then I would also take a same type of shoe, but in a 3-inch heel. Okay. And one being that if for whatever reason, that gown was not hitting me, where if I had maybe gotten my hips a little bit off from where I was when I was trying things on, or maybe I hadn't gone to the bathroom that day, or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
And that gown wasn't hitting long enough for me, I would go down. Or the second reason I would also do that is if for some reason my feet were hurting to the point that I didn't feel like I could walk comfortably in the gown and model it.
That
I
is
felt it was,
fabulous idea.
yeah, I felt it was a better and safer option to do that. But the important thing is trying your gown on when you get it, and always do your measurements of your hem lengths on a solid surface, not on a carpet. Because if you're doing it on a carpet, it will always be too short.
Sure. I just want to wrap up a little bit with the suitability. I know at the very end of the suitability of the gown, they talk about sleeve length, and it says the arm, does the arm look too manly? But it more so means, I think, that you can wear sleeveless or like a strap or even a sleeveless. It just depends on the aesthetic of the look and what fits your body correctly. I believe, is there a rule about wrist? Isn't it like an inch below your wrist?
It should be hitting in that soft spot where your thumb bends.
Yeah.
I can't. There we go. So
I
like
got
in the
you.
soft spot there,
Yeah.
between the wrist bone and the thumb should be about your correct length, unless of course obviously you're dealing with a cap sleeve or what have you. But yes, you know, the thing about that again is you do have to remember that there are some women who are muscular, so having some tone is not a problem.
Very true.
But also, you know, if you're out there playing football every other week or what have you, your arms are probably bigger than what you may perceive them to be. And also, you need to realize, pay attention to the fact that there's going to be different lighting in different rooms. And so, if you get a lighting that is more straight front to you, you don't see a lot of your muscle tone. However, if you get that light shooting from above you in any way and shooting down on you, it creates shadows, which defines things even more. So I'm not personally one to discourage people from going sleeveless unless I feel that there is a very strong muscular cut there. And then I will try to find something that will be a medium ground again between a full sleeve and necessarily no sleeve. And then that way they can have that same feel that they're after, because a lot of times it's more about the feel of what they're after than it is necessarily the exact look.
Sure. I completely agree. Okay. Hairstyle. What I just learned, what I love is that I kind of learned something fun this year. You don't have to just have a full updo. You can have something nicely styled that can be down, which I was very excited about because I do enjoy something a little long, like shorter length. So I know that they talk about the suitability of the hair, making sure it kind of tells that story that you're going for with your piece, which is your gown. Can you share a little bit of things that you're looking for, that we would be wanting to look for, as far as like maybe like making sure it's not looking messy, or kind of other little things that maybe?
Yes. Absolutely. You do not have to have an updo. You can wear your hair down. The main thing that you don't want is, if you are wearing your hair down, that you have a lot of conflict with the hair and the gown. So if you had something that maybe had a lot of spikes on your shoulder, probably a down piece of hair would not be a good idea, because you will end up getting tied up in that, or it will somehow mess up the style. So you just don't want conflicts. And the same goes with, say, jewelry. You don't want things that are necessarily binding up in the dress and causing a problem. So you always want to be mindful of the style of your dress more so than anything. The more open the neckline is, I think the more it does tend to suit a down piece of hair, because a lot of times this area on a man is very prevalent. Even when you're all done up and you're in a dress, this area can sometimes come across very manly, and it's good to cut down through there because it cuts your jawline and it cuts some of the things like that.
Sure.
The main thing I will say with hair, I'm very flexible when it comes to hair. I do get bored with everybody having the exact same style of hair, which tends to be a problem in pageantry. Well, overall in pageantry, whether it's the choice of talents, the choices of gowns, the choices of hair, is when people see something work for someone, they want to emulate it. And then all of a sudden you get little clones of each other. And again, not everything suits every person. And you're wanting to hit your check marks on your checklist of things you want to do, but you still want to interject yourself. And hair is one of the good places to be able to do that, because there are so many styles out there now that can be done that are fun and flirty and maybe not down or part up, part down.
Mhm.
And people shy away from it because they're afraid. And I think you have to match the feel of the gown with the feel of the hair, and just shooting more for the idea of being well groomed when it comes to the hair. You
Right.
don't want things that are falling out of place. You don't want very obvious hard hair lines. You don't want, if you have an updo, you don't want a lot of bobby pins showing or breaks in the hair that is pulled up. Uh,
Mhm.
just common knowledge on things, or common sense, I should say, not knowledge, common sense on things like that. And then if you are having hair that is either teased out and puffy or down, you don't want a lot of flyaways showing in that hair,
Mhm.
because it begins to really show again based upon the strength of the lights that you're in. You start getting into some of these stage lights, and it's very hard for almost any hair to look well groomed.
Sure.
Now, I will put a caveat on that, that you also do not need to go out with a piece of hair that is so hard set that it looks like a helmet. Okay.
Yeah.
There's something that I call movement to hair, and that is a looseness to it. It can still be clean, it can still be styled, but there's still a little bit of flexibility to the hair, and it's not necessarily so pristinely perfect that it doesn't look real. And that is something I think you want to avoid as well, because many of us, our masculine traits tend to be in the jaw lines, being a little bit forward in the face. Um, and when you start getting that really tight, hard smoothness, sometimes it can bring those features forward. So
Okay.
having a little bit of looseness is sometimes a good thing. Base it on your shape of your face. And the other thing is that you want to make sure that you are keeping your hair in proportion to your face. When I was competing, I tried to make sure that my hair never went as high as my face was tall,
Interesting.
because it made the proportions of it look out of joint.
Sure.
What you were doing. If you, for me, I tended to like things that had a little more volume to them because I had a longer face. So I was trying to create a little bit of width to it. Whereas things that were straight down, more down towards my face, didn't always necessarily look so good. And I also always tried to kind of camouflage my huge forehead by always making sure something came down towards the face. For me, that's what I needed to do. So again, just like you practice with dress styles, you want to practice with hairstyles.
And you say that word, and I'm gonna kind of steal it a little bit too, that camouflage thing. I really love that
Hmm.
way to look at it, because you're
Exactly.
kind of because you're giving that illusion, and you're also trying to tie in things that you don't want people to necessarily see. I'll just wrap up the hair with just a couple little fun tidbits that I've picked up.
Oh,
Uh,
please do.
so about making sure your lace is glued down when you're doing your lace, because you don't want things lifting, because
Hmm.
that obviously is a distraction. We don't want the distraction for the judges, and it looks cleaner.
Hmm.
I've also learned that you don't want, if you're having an updo, making sure, because I have long hair, you don't want your real hair hanging out in the back, or other things like that, because that can happen.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, and camouflaging all the things that I don't
Right.
want them to see.
And I will say, because clearly my generation of wig styling was different. We really didn't use the lace fronts. We were the rooted wigs, and even then, for me, gluing was the trick for me. Because I did the rooted look, and I never did hairspray like everybody did. I
Mhm.
actually did bonding glue in the hair on the temples, in the front, and then all along the back,
Work.
which held it. And then I went around the entirety of the wig with spirit gum all the way around, and then pushed that in, and then powdered over that, and it blended out like a lace front every single time.
How did
But
you get
it was hell on wigs.
yes, how did you get that off your head?
Well, I mean, you just basically have to peel it, and you have to get
Sure,
a real thick skin real fast.
sure,
It was
that's
not
the
it
callus
was
is
not pretty.
almost there.
But for the lace fronts, I will say one thing that I also do think you need to pay attention to is either pay for a very good lace maker I don't know what they're called, and I have a couple of friends that I know are going to read me for not knowing what the actual term of those people are. But the people that will that they'll tie the lace fronts, either pay for a good one,
Mhm.
or if you have to use a less expensive one, do some plucking of it, because those lace fronts can look very hard,
Mhm.
and many of them to me look as obvious as the old, what they called the hard front wigs.
Sure. And
And
also
so
with the lace to make sure the brightness of it,
yeah,
make sure
there's a lot of stuff to do, because sometimes I think people just think it's a lace front, I can put it on and it's good to go, and it's not necessarily the case. So definitely make sure you invest in your gown hair.
and I think that, something that I have learned is that I have quite a few gown hairs, but if you treat them good, they'll treat you good because you're really not dancing and you're not
Hmm.
doing all the performances in it. You're just bringing it on stage, nicely take it off, put it in a box, boom, you're ready for the next time.
Absolutely.
So it's an investment, is how I like to look at it as well.
Absolutely, you're right.
Now I'm really excited for the stuff coming up where I want you to get in on some of the videoing that I put in this that I'm going to put in the stream. So because I want you to go through the different types of the walks that you're seeing and
Modeling, because we're
the
touching on modeling, right?
yes.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
before we do that, I want to swiftly, because it's important, because I want to just kind of cover a couple things in the general appearance part, because the
Hmm.
modeling is the fourth category of the
Correct.
subcategory of it. So as I'm just looking at some of the highlights from this, it's all about the string hanging, or does the shoes match the gown, which you had discussed a little bit.
Hmm.
We talked about the makeup and the contour and the pads and stuff, but I do have a question though.
Absolutely.
Tattoos during gown as of
Mhm.
today,
Yes.
is it just for gown that you can't wear or show your?
This is for the whole event, and whether you're a competitor or you are a title holder, because before the MCs and the entertainers could also not show anything like that, or at
Mhm.
least we weren't supposed to. Some of us were a little more rebellious than others, but so we did remove the requirement that you had to cover your tattoos. However, it needs to be very clear on this, is just because we do not require you to cover them does not mean that we require every judge to like every tattoo they see. Okay. So you do need to be aware that if you plan to show your tattoos, do they in some way correspond with the image that you are trying to portray?
Yeah.
So, in other words, if you came out with a huge tattoo that's, giving a middle finger while, well, some horrible things came into my mind on them. But anyway, if it's
I was gonna
something that
say,
is truly,
are these your tattoos that we're talking
no, 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 I have no tattoos. I do not have the ability to, well, another video altogether.
about?
Um, but
Right.
so
Sorry.
bear in mind, you do need to understand that because judging is based on an opinion, we cannot tell a judge that they have to like something. So they have the ability to mark you down if they feel that those tattoos don't in some way coordinate. So just because you can doesn't mean that everybody has to accept it.
Sure.
So that's your choice on whether you want to go there or not.
Sure, and I appreciate that. I'll just leave the general appearance kind of subcategory as for future contestants or contestants coming in again for the next year of trying to
Mhm.
get that crown. Definitely look over that subcategory because it's just a good trigger of like making sure you're checking off those boxes and making
Mhm.
sure you're covering everything. Just making sure things like your gown's not wrinkled or it's just a detail and
Yes,
just
the steamers, and that's all part of that general appearance. You want to make sure that you looked well groomed, well put together, like you said, no wrinkles, no obvious strings. You need to have someone looking over you constantly from the time you put the dress on to the last second before you're getting ready to walk out. They need to be there with the flashlight, looking at every angle and everything like that. Um, Making sure that the linings are pulled down if your dress has a lining to it. Um, just make sure the hairline is down. Just every little thing that you can think of right before you walk out. And
amazing.
it is also very important that one of the things that we made clear this year as well is when you have a dresser with you and you do take a dresser, from backstage to the stage, dressers are not going to be allowed on stage at any contest at any time. So there's no more walking the girl out to the center of the thing, holding their train, and then, laying out the train and futzing and putzing with them and what have you. If you can't get from off stage to the center of the stage, you're not making the rest of the triangle. So you need to make sure that you've walked in that gown and everything is fine at that point. But that dresser needs to make sure that everything is a complete package. And as far as, shoes matching the gown, we get this a lot. Do you like open toe, or do you have to have a dyed pump to match? That again is kind of an odd area, because you get judges like me that don't mind, and we understand that people are going to have Barbie toes. That's part of the whole deal of what we do with this. Or back in the day, we had to have the gown that matched the line, or the shoe had to match the lining, and the pantyhose had to match both, and it just insane the things we had to do. And so you're going to have some judges that are very strict on those things, and you're going to have some that are not. So the best thing for you to do is be as prepared as you can and try to tick off as many possibilities of error that you can. So definitely look to every little detail, from making sure that the earrings are on tightly, making sure that your fingernails are on tightly. It's amazing in evening gown how many girls will lose a fingernail just as they're getting ready to walk out on stage. I don't understand it. It's crazy.
And that's why my dresser will have a fanny pack.
Yeah. Funny story. My sister, Susie Wong, the year she won, I believe she was number 1 when she won. And she had a big, beautiful ball gown on, and she was just getting ready to walk out final night for gown. And her thumbnail fell off just as she was like literally taking the first step. And she had to do the whole pageant with her thumb. Where's my spear? With her thumb tucked under her hand like that the whole time.
Did anybody
never noticed?
No one acknowledged. They were just like, okay, she's doing it.
Yeah,
Wow. Well, then but that just goes to show you, with practice and being aware of what you are doing, you can keep your cool and focus and do the job that you're.
And that kind of ties into segue going into what we're getting ready to go into, which is modeling, because one of the things that can completely make or break this category is the modeling.
Yes.
I have in many times seen girls who had gowns that were less than spectacular, but their modeling was so impressive and so confident that it just completely changed your impression of the gown just by how they moved. And then I've had girls that the dress is just absolutely spectacular, but the modeling was just too stiff, or wasn't quite hitting the right spots, and it just kind of made everything deflate. And that's why you have the subcategories, because that way you can get good points in one section and still kind of play a law of averages with the rest of it, in order to try to get an even score. And so, whereas if you were in some other systems, you walk out, and if one thing's wrong, the whole thing's wrong. Yeah. And that's kind of one of the benefits, I think, to our system, is the math of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I kind of since it's only a 30-second clip, I stumbled upon this before we get into the first, we'll say contestant critiquing. I wanted to segue it with a fun, cute little video that I found. And this is circa, I don't even know what year, so you have to tell me.
Oh my goodness. Is this me?
I don't know. Could you imagine if it was? I don't think it is, but
I can't imagine that. I would be really shocked if there was even video footage of me. Everything had to be sketched on an Etch-a-Sketch.
If it's you, I'm going to be so proud of myself. But if it's not you, and I don't know who that is, please don't judge me.
Oh, okay, cool. So you really don't know if it's me. I thought you were being sarcastic.
No, I just thought it was absolutely fabulous, because you know what I love about this system is there's such longevity, and the culture of it is absolutely spectacular. And it, yes, you evolve as times are changing, but you still have your true principles, and just the classness in this video, classness, not less, is amazing. And that's why I wanted to show it. So,
well, hopefully I'll be able to see it, because my screen is really tiny, and I recognize who it is too. It'd be worse if I didn't recognize who it was.
All right. Let me play, and this will be a good testament to if we're gonna be able to see the videos for the walks.
Yeah, because I've got a really small screen.
Okay. All right. I'm going to hit this now. If you haven't, the viewers that are watching right now, hit the share button. Make sure you share and bring everyone in because this is now the time to listen up because the walk is always the most nerve-wracking. And we have a skilled expert here to give us some
Oh,
tips and tricks.
we'll see. I feel
All
like I'm
right.
watching NFL. Let's see what we got going.
Let's see who this beauty is first. Okay. Here we go.
The evening gown
I hope-
competition. 150 points are possible in this segment. Evening gown is the most elegant, and in my case, the most expensive outfit worn in the pageant. So many things must be right. Hair, makeup, shoes, accessories, and modeling technique. Of course, you must remember each contestant has their own style. This is the last competition to present that individual style to the panel of judges. So let's take a look at our 10 finalists in evening gown competition.
She's fat. I want to be
absolutely fabulous. That's like almost like drag ASMR right there. She has just such a smooth, calm voice. That's Valerie Lord, Miss America. I believe it was 1991 from Dallas, Texas.
She's
The
amazing.
blonde bombshell.
If you ever need me to put in a nice perm wig and give an intro to the gown, I am signing up. I'm the first one that's saying it now in 2024. I think we're in that I claim that role. Please, thank you.
Yeah, that was nice. I don't remember. I vaguely remember seeing that video many years ago, and it's been ages since I've even seen it. I don't even remember like the entirety of the video, but you found that old one.
Yeah, what I kind of like, in addition to what we're doing right now, which is something amazing that we're sharing to viewers a little bit more detail of how the system works and the point system, getting people set up for success. In a way, even then, I think it was in the 90s. When did you say that she was reigning?
She was 91, so I would imagine. So obviously, it would have had to have been either the year she was Miss America or shortly thereafter,
right.
Because they wouldn't just be having her MC before that.
Right.
So it would have had to have been 91 or 92,
yeah.
and it could have been 92.
And I do like. I just feel like they, in a way, we were giving that message still. Like we're breaking it down for people and like really getting down to the nitty gritty, which I like.
Well, and I think also a lot of that stems from what you're also witnessing there are the early roots of the movement of, say, like a Drag Race was concerned, in which they were trying to move pageantry into more of the mainstream markets, because they had the, what was it, the Female Impersonator of the Year pageant that was on with Lyle Wagner and somebody else, and that was I forget who won that. But that was around that era, and so they were creating these videos that were educational, not just necessarily for new drag queens, but also for a general wide base of audience. So that is actually the precursor to the Drag Race phenomenon.
Sure.
So,
well, maybe they should do another.
And that's the brainchild of our first Norma Christie. She was always very good about wanting to make sure that the pageant got out to as many people as she possibly could. And she was dealing with this pageant back when people, well, several of us still had issues of that, even in our years of when they were protesting outside of the pageant, and where to compete in a pageant was literally a very strong political statement, because you were standing up to some incredibly harsh times, which is funny because we've kind of circled back around to that in many ways. So
yeah,
but that's what you're saying, the groundwork.
Okay, so you were able to watch the video. Okay, that you're.
Yeah, I mean, it was tiny, but I could definitely tell Valerie.
All right, perfect. So I stumbled upon this fabulous video of this gorgeous creature.
Is it you?
She'll be coming up soon. Don't worry. But Kirby Colby is absolutely fabulous. I love them so much. Kind heart, amazing.
Oh, and like she was known for evening gown. Kirby was the girl that you did not want to have to compete in gown with. First of all, she always had absolutely stunning wardrobe, and just her beauty and her style and her grace, unclockable.
You see it, and you see it in these video clips. Do you mind if I play the first one real quick? So
Absolutely. So now, as I understand, I'm kind of supposed to comment on things that I see that, like pointers and things like that. Okay, great.
Maybe the techniques, or not that you're going to find it in Kirby, but maybe for my own that you could point out
Well,
some
I
of
think, I mean, again, it goes on to opinions. So almost in
100%.
every, I'm going to see things I like and things that I thought, oh, well, you're in the heat of the moment. You're not always necessarily thinking of every aspect of everything.
Agreed.
So, all right.
All right, let's get this party started. All right, here we go.
Representing as Miss Gay DC America, she's contestant number 33, Kirby Colby. Kirby comes to you from Raleigh, North Carolina. Her sponsors this evening include Mark Smith, The Lady Bonnell, Robert York, George Barkley, and John Parks, Flowers on 14th, Legends Nightclub, and
Did it go over before?
No, it was fine. Could you hear any of the things I said?
No.
Oh, okay, cool. So the first thing that you would have wanted to have noticed in that was, first of all, her choice in gown in terms of skin coloring and in terms of hair coloring. Everything was a cohesive color palette of complementary color and tone. So that's number one, picking a color that was good for you and a strong dynamic color. Then when she came out and she stood, whenever you would see her in a completely still pose, you could see her spine was all straight up and down. There was no leaning forward. There was no leaning back, no swaying of the back. Everything was in a straight line. That's very important because she was creating height in what she was doing. You also saw the length of her stride. When you take smaller steps, you tend to bounce more up and down. When you take longer strides, you glide more. And she was taking very long strides. Number one, to fill up the space of the stage is large, but it also creates a smoothness and levelness because you don't want a lot of bounce when you're walking. So she was very good about doing that. Just in that small clip, the only thing that I would have said I would have changed on that was when she got to her first spot and she posed, she turned her body a little bit too far to the profile for me.
Okay.
I would have kept more of what we call in dancing contrabody motion. So what would happen would be my shoulders would be more squared on to the audience, but my hips would have been facing a quarter towards the direction I would be eventually walking in.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that I would have negated. But that is something that is such a small detail that that having been a dancer, I would think of that a lot of people would not.
So I don't know if there's a signature of hers or not, but when she went and put that arm straight down and you saw that whole straight arm and she just hit her pose and she knew exactly what she was doing and she was on that mission. And what I loved about that signature, or I don't know if it's a signature of hers, but what I love about it is that she was very aware of what she was doing and she's very well aware of her body.
Yes. And when you looked at her, when I, again, I'm a very physical person in terms of relating to motion in when you are modeling. When she would get to a point, she would allow her arm to be mobile when she was walking, not, excessive where it was flying around or anything like that, or just, sticking out to the side or what have you. It had a fluidity to its movement. And then when she got to her point, she was brought that down and she was still.
Yeah.
But yet when she was still, she still had her head moving in small movements to keep movement going. That's very important because while there is strength and stillness, there still needs to be a little bit of active motion going on, because if you become too still, you become stagnant. Yeah. And she was very good about that. Now, I don't know if she thinks about that, but that is something that I was very aware of. And when you see her move and she looks down, she doesn't keep her gaze down the entire time. She only looks down to then counter with a very high neckline looking up. And go ahead.
I was going to say, before I move on to the next step, I do have a question for her that someone had asked in the chat or the messaging about, because the smiling, is it like, should contestants be smiling for the full minute and a half or minute to minute and a half, or
Well, you know, you definitely want to have a pleasant appearance towards people, so you don't want to be mean mugging the entire time that you're doing this. I personally like to see fluctuation in the face based upon the position of the modeling that you're doing or the emotion you're trying to convey. A lot of times when I would model myself, I would have whole conversations in my head as I was going on. And I would start walking. I'm like, we're floating, we're floating, we're floating. So I made sure that every movement I did was deliberate and slow and soft. And then all of a sudden, oh, we're going to tease them. So I would throw a little shoulder in there and I would kind of like, wink or something like that on a smile, or then I would change the degree of how much I smiled so that it looked like I was trying to do something other than just a dead stagnant smile.
Sure. Sure. Because I know sometimes when someone does that solid smile, sometimes it can look very like statuesque. It'd be a good thing.
The face moves as much as the head, as the hand, as the body.
Right.
And sometimes it's so hard because some of these gowns can get so tight and so restrictive that you just don't feel like you can move. And that's a lot of times when things really get really stiff. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to say you need to smile 100% of the time, but you also need to be aware of showing flexibility and variety in your facial expressions.
I like that. I like that. And when I go like this next time, I'm thinking in my head, Katia, look what I'm doing. Just so you know, when you see me on the videos, I go like, Morgan's thinking Katia.
I don't know what song you're singing, but okay.
It's a song, nonetheless. I'm gliding as well. All right, so there's just a couple more smaller clips of Kirby, so we'll play the next one right quick. If that's okay.
I always enjoyed watching.
And fans of Kirby Colby. Her makeup artist this evening is Kirby Colby. Her hairstyle is by Kirby Colby, and her gown designer is by J.D. Martin of Dallas, Texas. The best beauty advice she has ever received.
Oh, my clever little girl.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I love watching her. She's quite clever there. First of all, did you notice the swing of her arm as she was walking? That's releasing tension. That's releasing, expelling energy that you have that gets you bound up. And that swing matched the stride of what she was doing. So it looked very calm and relaxed, even down to the point of even she had an upturn of her wrist and how she held her hand. It was poised, but it was not stiff. So she's doing, again, I don't know if she knows she does it, but she's expelling energy when she's doing that, which keeps her calm and controlled. But then when you watch her and she gets into those lines where she's almost facing front, the first thing she does is when she throws those hands on those hips, she pinches her shoulder blades together so that she's pulling her shoulders back and together, narrowing her shoulder line. Clever girl. And there, because she had that long hair, if she would have lifted that hair while in that pose, you probably would have seen very clenched back shoulders with a lot of energy in those shoulders, but you couldn't see it because she had rolled those shoulder blades down and together, and that created neckline. It was quite brilliant.
I'll tell you, I watched these clips a couple times in the past 2 days because I'm just mesmerized at that.
She was a good choice. I'm glad you picked her.
All right, the next one's a really quick one. Here we go.
It's to moisturize, and moisturize. The best advice given to Kirby by her mother is don't forget where you come from.
And again, the arms come up, but they go right back down. It's just, it's like I said, I can't think of a better person to watch for modeling her. And the thing I like about that video that you picked is that it's to when the music is actually quicker, because we switched from having that slow funeral dirge music to more upbeat. So that shows that you can have a little bit more freedom in what you're doing, and you don't have to just walk with your hands to your side. and you can be more expressive. And I again, I go back to anytime she looked down,
Mm-hmm.
she did not look all the way down with her shoulders. She just looked down with her chin. And then she would pick her head back up. And when you would watch her, she would pivot her head to different parts of the room so that it wasn't always just to the judges or just to who's right out in front. You can't see any of those people when you're on a big stage like that. So you're just literally just picking random spots. But while her body was still, her head was moving in small pictures.
Sure. Yeah. There's one more of her, but I'm going to actually kind of, because I know how fabulous she is, and I kind of want to, because we're spilling over a little bit on time, which is fine, because I could literally talk to you for hours.
I know I talk too much. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. And don't worry, people can rewatch things as after we post everything. I do want to just touch upon just a couple key points that I was thinking about while I was watching her.
Mhm.
As far as we didn't really talk about, and I would love for you to kind of just give a quick little thing about the 3 points and how important it is that you do the 3 points. Because I know we were jumping into the videos, and I forgot to mention that the main thing that you have to do is these 3 points.
Correct.
You don't mind kind of giving.
So we work on an inverted triangle, and we always tell our judges that the contestants have to mark, or they have to hit all of the points on the triangle. Now, normally when your triangle modeling starts when you hit that center backstage point. That's the inverted top of the triangle. All right, and that's when your overall judging starts. You need to then move to the front, and personally, everybody tends to go to the right as they go. Some people sometimes will go to the left. Personally, that's not really important whether you do one side or the other. The point is that you make that triangle, and when you get to your first point of that triangle on the broad side, that they get a front and a back. Now, if you have a gown that is dragging behind you, you don't pivot and spot. You do just like a tiny little circle around and then go out into your next direction so that you're not tying yourself up into your gown. But you do need to hit each one of those points at least once during your modeling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it gets a little tricky because we shortened the length of time that people are out for gown. They used to be out for almost like 3 minutes, 2.5, 3 minutes. It was an eternity. And now it's down to like between a minute and a minute and a half.
Yeah, right.
It's supposed to be a minute and a half, but sometimes if things are getting late, you get a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of have to do that. Now, once you do that and you get back to that initial starting center point, you're free to do whatever you want. Most people just go straight down to the front. And how you do that is up to you. You're allowed to be a little bit more expressive at that point. Again, you don't want to do anything too extreme, not because we don't want you to do extreme things, because we don't want you to be expressive, but the more extreme of a movement you make or pose that you make, the more you distort the line of the gown.
Sure.
And so that becomes problematic for you. So in not trying to restrict you, we're trying to stop you from making a mistake.
Sure. And something I did teach myself a little bit is that, yeah, I can deviate from that triangle a little bit, but I always have to have a plan and know where my motions are going to go. And I already have that prior to stepping on that first point on the backstage center of the upside down triangle.
Correct.
Because if I don't know that, I feel like people just, or myself as included, kind of just start moving around that stage, and you're just all over the triangle, and it just looks it's very distracting. You still may look beautiful and you're doing your thing, but it can be distracting because you're just bopping around like a ping pong ball.
Correct.
So,
And so that is one thing that you do have to hit them, but how you do it. And don't forget that it's not just about modeling your dress at each individual point. It's the transition from point A to point B to point C, which was what was so nice about when you watched Kirby, because when she moved, it wasn't like, oh, I'm just getting to this point. Now I'm modeling while I'm at this static point, and now I just got to move over to this other one and get to this static point. She made every step part of the modeling process. And that is something that you want to do because it's all about the transitions. The same as you have a flow to a stage show as it's going. It's not just about that one part in that scene. It's about how that scene then melts into the next one. If you're a dancer, it's how you get from move to move. Everything, it's very fluid, and it's almost a dance is what it is.
I think that's a very good little take home from a lot of what we're talking, especially with the modeling, is
Mhm.
you don't realize there's a transition too.
Correct.
And like you kind of just spoke to me a little bit, which I kind of love, because it's like you think you have to just get to that point A, then point B, and then point C, do your smile, pose, and then move forward. You don't realize that people are watching you as you're moving from the next point.
Well, it
So
is. It's the time when you kind of uh, betray the fact of whether you're comfortable or you're nervous. Is in that in between.
yeah, I
Because if you're comfortable, you play with it, and if you're uncomfortable, you're just getting to point A, B, and C.
and run it. I've never done that, but just I'm totally kidding. Speaking of that, I know we're gonna be wrapping up very soon, but for a little fun, I did throw a couple video clips of me from 2023.
Oh my
Wait,
gosh! So
here
like I said, I'm gonna come after you like Britney Spears with
you
knives.
are you get in here and you tear it up. No, I just figured it'd be fun to just kind of
Mhm.
shift gears. Plus, I love my gown a lot. So,
Any chance
um,
to show it?
what's that?
Any chance to show it?
Literally. All right, so I'm gonna just play a quick one, and I don't even know. I don't even know if they're in order. So we'll just play a couple, and then we can
Yeah,
wrap
sure.
up everything. All right, let's see here.
If you haven't figured this out, Morgan is a nurse.
Oh, that was fast.
I know. Sorry, I was like repositioning myself too.
I wasn't expecting that.
Sorry, there's not much on mine. So,
Oh,
so here, you know what?
It was,
I'm gonna give you another one, another
okay.
24-second one. Just as a really, just so you can soak it all in. I know she was lovely, but all right, hold on, here it is.
Jeremy Clayton and Adam Feetzer.
She volunteers for Morgan. Nurse Morgan helps an organization to help raise awareness and donations for LGBTQIA youth.
In evening gown competition, contestant number 29, Morgan.
So what's funny is, of course, I hit the last one, but but I do want to say before you dig in a little bit that I wasn't mindful of my stepping and time, and I didn't end in the center
Mm-hmm.
stage, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I felt like it was an awkward transition to go to the question and answer on stage. But
Negligible.
really,
You know, it's kind of sometimes hard to be able to determine exactly where you're going to end. The main thing is like knowing what your last spot is supposed to be, and no matter where you are, is making the movement from where you are to it as much of a moment as the modeling. So the main thing I would work on for you, if I were you, is your upper shoulder line and your neckline.
the upper
Okay.
shoulder. Okay.
When you get ready to go out for gown, what I'd love to see you do is take and like pull out your shoulders just like as tight as you can, and then roll them back and release them and let it go. And then take your head and push your chin back, almost like someone's grabbed you by those little hairs at the back of your hairline back there, and it's just pulling them straight back. And then when you walk, you'll be a little bit more grounded because sometimes you're a little bit forward in the shoulders.
Forward.
Pinch those back, and you'll be like 3 inches taller than you already are. That was the main thing that I would say to you on your modeling. I liked the pace that you had. I think I would be a little bit more fluid in the shoulder movement as well.
Okay.
Just relax those up a little bit. But I think a little bit of that is just more of the tension of it. And just the tension that you carry. We all carry tension in our shoulders. And so we get very up here, and we don't even know we're doing it sometimes.
What's interesting is that I think for me, my biggest barrier when it comes to gown and the modeling is where am I placing my hand? What's my next move with my hand? So you're seeing that because I'm thinking, where am I putting it now?
You're trying to restrict that.
But I'll tell you, I've been really working hard and watching videos like Kirby and just kind of seeing like it's okay to be putting something here and here and like just really feeling yourself a little bit. So I've been kind of chiseling away at that, the stiff shoulder thing.
Yeah, when I was dancing, one of the things, a little trick that my dance teacher used to do for me when moves weren't feeling like I would feel like I was doing something bigger than I was, is she would have me grossly over exaggerate a movement. So like if I were walking, she would make me take a massively oversized step and really swing my arms just like cartoonishly large things. Then when she would have me scale that back so it felt more comfortable, it ended bigger movement than what I was when I started. Whereas if I tried to make the movement bigger from that first starting point, I felt like I was doing too much. But when I was coming from the opposite direction, I felt like I was comfortable, but I had actually expanded.
Moment. I know there's so many fine details to the fabulousness.
Oh, it is. There are some things. It could go on.
We literally could probably go on forever about the gown. So what was I going to say? Before we wrap up with the whole podcast, we were discussing a little bit last night about, I was like, well, we should get a video and we'll go through some stuff. If somebody who doesn't even know where to look for anything, is there any names or suggestions? Because remember, we were talking yesterday, I can't remember their name, that you said, check this person out. They do some modeling. And then
I have a friend on Facebook. I believe his YouTube is Kalani Productions.
Kalani, that's right.
Kalani. He has archived so many different pageants, different systems, different years of people. And it's a really great resource for being able to see some of the different, even just for a history's sake, some of the different pageants. And you do have to realize and bear in mind when you're watching things, you know, what was going on in 1991 is not what's going on in, 2024. Sure. But there's basics and principles there that are still going on. And that's true with any system. So again, you're learning the foundation, and things like gowns, while the styles may change, the principles and foundations do not. And it's kind of like a wedding cake. Okay. The cake part of a wedding cake doesn't change. And it's not pretty. But then when you put all the wrapping on it, that's what makes it different. That's what makes it new, makes it fresh, makes it exciting. So the principles are that cake, and then all the wrapping is just the actual dress itself and the hair and all the other little extras.
I love it. I'm going to make you a camouflage cake. Because those two little gems are amazing. No, but I'm ears open, mouth shut. I just thank you so much.
Oh my God. I'm just thrilled that you asked. I'm very, very honored that you would ask me for my thoughts, as crazy as some of them are.
Well, I'll tell you, they're not crazy. You're very insightful. And, I know we dished a little bit last night, but just the wealth of knowledge that you have sitting here tonight is just mind-blowing.
And I would like to, we've touched on many things. First of all, understand that we're kind of skimming the surface of things.
Yes.
And I really want to stress again, what works on one person does not work on everybody else. So do not look at another person's success in any category as the blueprint of what you need to do for you, because you need to find that happy medium ground where you are able to interject yourself, your aesthetic, your personality into the parameters of what will get you your points.
Yeah.
The other thing that is very important for evening gown that I want people to really understand is it is not always the price tag of the dress that wins the category. Okay. You have 5 different judges with different opinions as to what they like. And what they like may not be anything that you have on that night. But you don't necessarily have to feel like you have to spend $15,000 on a gown in order to win that category when you have a gown that is maybe $800 that looks absolutely perfect on you. Don't be afraid to do it, because you need to be, number one, comfortable in what you do, because if you don't, everything will be a mess. And no matter how pretty the dress is, it'll be a mess. And number 2 is that you need to spend money on your packages with things that you want to wear and do, and things that you like, because you are going to be able to use them moving forward. Don't prepare a package solely based on what you think they want to see from you. Do it upon what you do well and what you want to show them.
I love that. It's that being authentically yourself.
Absolutely.
Right?
and holds for every single
I
category.
love that. Speaking of authentically yourself, more so geared towards you, I kind of probed you a little bit of it yesterday, but as I like to wrap up the Let's Get Down to Excellence, I always like to ask whom I'm speaking to their viewpoint or their definition of excellence. Do you mind sharing that with everyone that's watching?
Well, excellence is such a broad stroke because it will mean absolutely something different to everybody.
Right.
For me, understanding that excellence is a goal and it's something that we can strive towards, but we need to be very cognizant of the fact that we're never going to be perfect. And we have to have grace towards ourselves in understanding that we are striving to do the best we can at the given point of where we are at that moment. And the fact that you are striving for excellence is more important than necessarily being defined as excellence. You're kind of grasping at an intangible, and it's something that should drive you and motivate you, but not absolutely consume you. And there's a saying that I like to say, because sometimes people will mistake excellence with arrogance in people when they're trying to be as perfect as they possibly can. And sometimes they get wrapped up in that persona and they start thinking that they are something they are not. And part of having excellence is having humility and understanding that you are a queen, not the queen. And that it's not your proclamations and it's not your dictates to people that are going to make you appear to be excellent. It's how you interact with them, and it's how you nurture them, and it's how you understand that it's not really about you. It's about helping others get to the point that they perceive you at being. So for me, that's kind of what excellence is.
Sure.
It's more of a state of mind and a directional point than it is something that you really probably ever actually obtain.
You know, I have to say, you speak very eloquently. I would be scared to go against you.
Of diamond tiaras and battlefields.
No, you know what? I'm literally gonna have to rewatch what you said because it just blew me away how beautiful what you said was, because it's that humility and just having that realization that you are where you're at and embrace that moment and strive for the next plateau of your vision.
Right. It's an ever-moving goalpost.
Yeah. So once again, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hate to let you go because that means you have to go back to work, because I know it's still work time there.
Yeah, just barely.
Well, you're welcome for taking you to the end of your shift. You know, no, I'm just kidding. But thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again soon. And this is where I have to say goodbye, even though I don't want to. Thank you so much. I will see you very soon, my love.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, everyone. I hope the 9 people that are watching right now really got to soak that all in. That was a wealth of knowledge. Katia is absolutely fabulous. And I'm sure if you reached out to them, they would not mind answering any questions that you have as well. But once again, I look forward to our next episode of Let's Get Down to Excellence, which will be on May 30th. And we're going to start touching into talent. And what I think... What's that? Oh, it's on stage question. Just kidding, everybody. It's on stage question, which will be nice and crisp. And then after that, I think we're going to break up talent into 2 different episodes. So this way we can not just skim over things. We can get into a little more detail for everyone about the talent section, because that's a big pointed and weighted category. Also, I do want to mention that once again, in Pennsylvania, we're coming up to our 2nd and 3rd prelim out of our 7. So I'm super excited. Right now, we have tickets on sale for our Central PA location that's going to be happening in Mechanicsburg at Love Drafts. That is on May 18th. Thank you. So definitely go check out the ticket link and get your tickets now, because I'll be there, because that'll be my step down as well. Also, Philadelphia is also coming up right behind them on June 29th. So definitely look out. I believe that's at B West, which is right within the Frankie Bradley's family. So I'm super excited for that event as well. Thank you again for tuning in tonight. Make sure if you haven't done it already, please hit that share button. I love you all so much. And thank you for joining along with my journey of getting down to excellence. I hope to see y'all soon. I'll definitely be seeing you on May 30th for our next live. Have a great evening, everyone.